epoxy floors. So you want to get into one. You want to do your own, or maybe start a business. Well, I say go for it, man. You never know. You might make some money. You might end up with a beautiful floor. So, you know, it wasn't hurt. Get in there and try. I got in there and tried, and my first floor ever did 1,600 square feet. It came out absolutely perfect. You know, really close to perfect. The customer, I told him that I had never done a floor before. I did have a lot of painting experience, and if he was interested, I would do it. But I'm gonna do it for this price. You know, I did it for what, $4 a square, 1,600 square feet. He said his other bids were $8 and $10 per square foot. So I told him that, you know, like, I'd never done this before, and he said, well, for the savings, and you come highly recommended as a painter, we're gonna go with you. And so it took me I don't know, 3 weeks, I think 2 or 3 weeks to do his floor, 1,600 square feet. It was big enough to have 2 cars and an RV. So a big RV, like a bus size, out there in Arizona, Mojave County, South Arizona, just south of Bullhead City. And I watched the video 5 times. I watched it on the way there. When I was ordering materials, I was super nervous about clicking the purchase button, because his deposit was the entire amount. So I got half down and half when I was done. And I remember just being super nervous, and even opening the cans. There was one little bucket, that the little quart buckets, I could not get open. I was like breaking my fingernails. And I called a flooring friend of mine and borrowed a hand grinder, and I rented the grinder from from Home Depot. Home Depot's got a floor grinder. It's a single head floor grinder, and it's very slow, and it does not cut the concrete. I ended up using the hand grinder on the whole thing, and a floor sander, and I just tried everything I could get a hold of. I prepped it pretty good. He never called me with a complaint, and I don't know if that's because he had to redo it and called somebody else, but my feeling is it stuck, and it's still stuck. That was 2021, maybe 2022. I think maybe 2022. Today's February 26th. This is a lifetime floor, so it's supposed to never come off. So yeah, I did have a mistake on a floor that I'll never forget. Actually, a couple of jobs. One where I put the wrong accelerator in the clear coat, and the clear turned green, and these people's floor went from gray to green. I was on that job for 3 weeks. It was a little 2-car garage. I was there. I had to re-grind it. I was also filling a huge crack that they had, and I had no experience, and I had no idea what I was doing. You know, I just kept trying, and I eventually got it right. That green floor, I ground it back off and reflaked it. I got to turn here and go to my car wash. Flaked it again and clear coated it again, and they actually gave me the other half of the deposit before I finished, because I told them I had to buy all the materials again. And that's truly what happened. I had to buy all the materials again. And you know, my buddy was telling me I was getting paid to learn. So he's like, you're not messing up, you're just learning. So it's like a epoxy school. The epoxy school I went to is I got out there and screwed up a bunch of garages. Not a bunch. I did an outside porch one time where I mixed, instead of mixing the A and B component, I mixed 2 A's. And 3 days later, it was still wet. I did 2,000 square foot on a porch walkway area, driveway, equaled out to 2,000 square feet, and the customer was not happy. I had to suck it all up, and I threw sand down to pick it up, and you know, had to buy the B. Well, I had to buy the A again, because I already had plenty of B. component of the base epoxy. And in the middle of that job, I was putting the clear coat down, and I told my helper we're running out of clear coat, and to try to stretch it. And my customer heard me, and he said, I need you to put a second coat of clear on there because you were out there stretching the clear coat. Well, it was done. It came out nice, but I said, okay, and I put a second coat of clear, and then it became like an ice skating ring. And I didn't know about non-skid at the time, so it was slick. It was super slick when I was done with that job, and they would not let me do the last 1,000 square feet. I had all the materials to do it. So I don't know. They could look me up today and put a bad review, and I wouldn't deny it. I'd be like, yep, I made that mistake. So that's my experience in a couple of jobs I screwed up. So I learned from that. And why do I cost more than other epoxy guys? Well, I've screwed up a bunch of them, enough to know. I've put my time in. So people call me sometimes and they want to start their own epoxy business, and I'll tell them all the materials I use. I'll tell them the proper way to prep the floor. I reached out to a guy when I first got started, and he gave me all of the secrets. He told me what supplier to use and make sure I prep the floor right. I looked him up and looked up all his pictures, and that's how I got started. So I mean, I pay it forward. It's not, you gotta be willing to screw it up. And I got real humble when I learned I'm not perfect, and I got a lot of I get in there and make some mistakes, and that's how I learn. So I'd say if you're thinking about getting into this epoxy business, or you want to do your own floor, you might get it right. That first job I did, it came out right, but the third job, no, it did not come out right. So roll the dice, do a lot of research, reach out to me. You're welcome. Anybody's welcome to call me and ask me questions. I'd love to help the next guy. There's plenty of work for all of us. Asheville Epoxy Coatings, we're based out of Asheville, so we don't go to South Carolina. Very rarely will we go anywhere more than 50 miles outside of Asheville. Cashers, I'm not excited about driving out to Cashers because of the mountain roads out there, but we get a premium to going out to Cashers. You can look up Cashers. It's beautiful area, but the road out there is intense. A lot of times I got to use the four-wheel drive truck to get it up into the driveway and then down to the basement of some crazy dirt road out there next to a multi-million-dollar house. But we'll get it done. That's why I put mountains on my logo, because we're here in the mountains. I am jealous of those guys out there in Miami that are pulling up with their two-wheel drive trucks, or just their regular box truck, and they can just unload right into the garage. I'd say 50% of my jobs have no driveway, and there's a dirt trail to walk the generators and the grinders down. Sometimes I can ask my customers, what kind of access do I have to the basement, and most of the time they'll say it's a trail going behind the house. Sometimes there's stairs, and my 800-pound floor grinder is not going to go down there, so I'll use my Prep Master Junior, which is only 300 pounds, and it can come apart, so I do that. So I've learned a lot in this business. I used to paint houses for a living, like a lot of other epoxy guys. I did a lot of painted stucco. I painted siding, wood siding, and did a lot of caulking, thousands of tubes of caulking. I had no idea it was going to lead up to this epoxy floor business. So, I just started taking suggestion. Hey, I got a epoxy job for you. I'm like, I'll try it. Let's go for it. So I'd say if you got a epoxy floor that you're considering doing, just jump in there and try it. Or if you don't want to learn all the details and the proper prep and not have any stress of it never going to come off, then you just call a guy like me, Asheville Epoxy Coatings, and have us do it for you. A lot of times we can do a job in a day and a half. I'd spend that much time just trying to find the tools I need, if not more. Trying to order the right material, right amount of material. Yeah, that's what happened before, is I run out of material in the middle of a job, and then you got a big line down the middle of your garage. And so instead of looking at it for the rest of life, you can just hire me, and if I make that mistake, I have to redo it. So here we are, pulling in the car wash. I'll talk to you guys soon.